Joseph Stalin was one of the most important leaders in the history of the Soviet Union. He was born in Georgia in 1878 and became the leader of the country after the Russian Revolution in 1917. Stalin is remembered for many things: his leadership during World War II, his role in shaping the Soviet Union, and his policies that changed the country in many ways. His time as leader was difficult, full of challenges, and marked by many changes that affected millions of people. When Stalin became the leader of the Soviet Union, the country was still recovering from the Russian Revolution. The revolution had led to the fall of the Tsarist government and the rise of the Bolsheviks, a group that wanted to create a communist state. At first, many people were hopeful about the new government. They believed that communism would bring equality, justice, and a better life for all. Stalin joined the Communist Party and quickly moved up the ranks. He became a close ally of Vladimir Lenin, the leader of the Bolshevik Revolution. Lenin was the first leader of the Soviet Union, and his ideas were very important in shaping the direction of the country. However, after Lenin's death in 1924, a struggle for power began. Stalin fought against other leaders in the party to gain control. Stalin was known for being very determined and willing to do whatever it took to win. He used his position to remove his rivals and take full control of the Communist Party. His leadership style was harsh, and he did not hesitate to use force against those who opposed him. Once he became the leader of the Soviet Union, Stalin worked quickly to change the country in many ways. One of Stalin's first major goals was to modernize the Soviet Union's economy. He believed that the country needed to industrialize quickly to catch up with the more advanced nations of Europe. To do this, Stalin introduced a series of plans known as the 5-year plans. These plans aimed to increase the production of steel, coal, and other important goods. Factories were built and new industries were created to help the country grow stronger. While the industrialization process was successful in some ways, it also caused many problems. The government forced people to work long hours in dangerous conditions. The workers were often given very low wages, and there were many accidents in the factories. Despite these challenges, Stalin pushed forward with his plans because he believed that the success of the Soviet Union depended on rapid industrialization. At the same time, Stalin also wanted to improve the country's agriculture. He introduced a policy known as collectivization. This meant that the government took control of the land and forced farmers to work on large farms, known as collective farms. The goal was to increase the amount of food produced and make it easier to distribute food across the country. However, collectivization did not go as planned. Many farmers resisted giving up their land and joining collective farms. This led to protests and violence in some areas. In some cases, the government used force to make people follow the rules. The process of collectivization caused widespread suffering, with many farmers losing their homes and livelihoods. The famine that resulted from these policies led to the deaths of millions of people. In addition to his economic policies, Stalin was also known for his use of terror and repression. He believed that anyone who was against the government or did not support his policies was a threat to the Soviet Union. As a result, he ordered the arrest, imprisonment, and execution of many people. This period of terror is known as the Great Purge. During the Great Purge, thousands of people were accused of being enemies of the state and were executed or sent to labor camps. Stalin's secret police, known as the NKVD, played a key role in carrying out these purges. They arrested people without evidence, and many people were forced to confess to crimes they did not commit. These purges affected not only ordinary citizens but also members of the Communist Party, the military, and intellectuals. The purges created an atmosphere of fear and distrust in the country. Despite the violence and repression, Stalin's power grew stronger. He became the undisputed leader of the Soviet Union and ruled with an iron fist. His policies changed the country in many ways, but they also caused suffering for millions of people. However, Stalin was able to maintain his control over the Soviet Union, and his leadership was seen by many as strong and effective. Stalin's rule was also marked by World War II, a time of great hardship for the Soviet Union. When Nazi Germany, led by Adolf Hitler, invaded the Soviet Union in 1941, Stalin faced one of the greatest challenges of his leadership. The Soviet Union was unprepared for the invasion, and the German army quickly advanced into Soviet territory. At first, Stalin was caught off guard and made some mistakes in his handling of the war. However, he quickly took control of the situation and rallied the Soviet people to fight. Under his leadership, the Soviet Union was able to push back the German army and eventually defeat them. The Battle of Stalingrad, one of the most famous battles of the war, marked a turning point in the conflict. It was a hard-fought victory for the Soviet Union and helped change the course of the war. Stalin's role in World War II is often debated. Some see him as a hero who led the Soviet Union to victory, while others argue that his policies and leadership were responsible for the suffering and loss of life during the war. Despite the destruction caused by the war, Stalin's leadership helped the Soviet Union become a major world power. After the war, Stalin continued to lead the Soviet Union with strong policies. He focused on rebuilding the country and strengthening its position as a global power. The Soviet Union emerged from the war as one of the two superpowers of the world, alongside the United States. This marked the beginning of the Cold War, a period of tension between the Soviet Union and the United States. Stalin's health began to decline in the early 1950s. In 1953, he suffered a stroke and died shortly afterward. His death marked the end of an era in Soviet history. After Stalin's death, there was a period of de-Stalinization, where many of his policies were criticized and reversed. The Soviet Union began to move away from his style of leadership, but the legacy of Stalin's time in power continued to influence the country for many years. Stalin's rule left a deep mark on the Soviet Union and the world. His policies changed the course of history, and his legacy is still a topic of debate today. Some people see him as a dictator who caused immense suffering, while others view him as a strong leader who helped shape the Soviet Union into a major power. Whatever one's view of Stalin, it is clear that he played a key role in shaping the 20th century. Stalin's leadership was both admired and feared by many. He was able to control the Soviet Union through a combination of force, fear, and propaganda. His policies shaped the country's economy, society, and politics in ways that still have an impact today. The changes he made to the Soviet Union were lasting, but they also came at a great cost. Millions of people suffered under his rule, and his leadership was marked by violence, repression, and fear. The legacy of Stalin remains a controversial topic. Some people believe that he was a necessary leader who transformed the Soviet Union into a powerful nation. Others view him as a ruthless dictator who caused the deaths of millions. Whatever the opinion, it is clear that Stalin's time in power changed the world in significant ways. His rule left a lasting impact on the Soviet Union, and his actions continue to be remembered and studied by historians around the world. Stalin's story is one of great change, but also great tragedy. His policies had both positive and negative effects on the Soviet Union. The transformation of the Soviet Union under Stalin's leadership was both remarkable and destructive. The history of Stalin's time in power is a reminder of the power that leaders can have over the lives of millions of people, and the consequences of their actions.